Alright guys, let's go. This is DM. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a brand new segment to the channel. We're going to call this Deck Tech Tuesday. Why is it called Deck Tech Tuesday? Because we're going to be doing deck tech, and I'm going to make sure this video comes out on Tuesday. Ta-da! It's like magic. So for this first segment, I wanted to talk about a deck that I had a lot of fun with during the MTGO EDH League. As you can see from your screen, it is Chorus of the Conclave. It was the green-white commander that I did, and it's right here on your screen now. Chorus of the Conclave is a 3/8 Forest Walk for 8 mana. 4, 2 green, 2 white. And her second ability is really what makes her super deadly. As an additional cost to cast creature spells, you may pay any amount of mana. If you do, that creature enters the battlefield with that many additional +1/+1 counters on it. So, I can already tell you that there are certain things that you have to be aware of when playing this deck. 1, you need a lot of mana. Why? Your commander costs 8. That's already a lot of mana just in itself. The deck doesn't rely on the commander, but it definitely helps. It definitely helps fuel the deck and keep you going, make the big creatures, and then overrun people, and they're done. With that being said, there's a lot of ramp, and the ramp is probably the first thing that I want to talk to you guys about. We're going to talk about ramp, draw, keyword enablers, and then accelerators. Accelerators is going to have its own thing. Keywords is going to be kind of like a me thing. It's not necessarily something that you normally have in every deck, but when we get to it, I'm sure you guys will understand. For now, guys, let's just talk about the ramp. Ramp's most important. 8 converted mana cost commander. You need to pay extra for your creatures in order to get the effect of the 1/1 counter, so let's talk about that ramp. Alright, right here you can see I highlighted 4. I'm not going to highlight every single one because there's a total of I think 16 cards that I consider ramp in the deck, and I don't want to go through each and every one. We want to keep this video relatively short. These are I think the best performing ones, along with one other that I'm going to talk about it right after we're done with these 4. Oracle of Mundaya is an elf shaman 2/2 creature. For 3 in green, she comes out onto the battlefield, and what she does is she enables you to play an additional land on each of your turns. And you reveal the top card of your library while you play. And if that's a land on top, you can play that land card. So this helps you pull lands out of your deck and kind of keeps your hand full. Who knows what's in your hand? You might have answers, you might not have answers, you might have a handful of land, but you're not going to be throwing your lands down from your hand. You could be pulling them off your deck, which is in turn making your draws more valuable and keeping people guessing of what you're holding in your hand so that they don't necessarily know. You might have a board wipe, you might have removal. They don't know. Something for them to worry about. It's a bit of a psychological game. The next card is right next to it. Zavala, Explorer Returned. For 1, a green, and a white, she's a 2/4 elf scout. Her ability is Parlay, which means to tap her, each player reveals the top card of his or her library. For each non-land card revealed this way, add green mana to your mana pool, and you gain 1 life. Then each player draws a card. This card does pretty much anything a Selesnya deck would want. It draws you a card, possibly gives you however much mana as there are people in the game, and it gains you life. The best part of it, I think, about Zavala is that she's very non-threatening. Because she's drawing everybody cards, people tend to leave her alone. People tend to be like, sure they're getting a little bit of life, sure they're getting a little bit of mana, but I'm getting a card out of it, so I might leave that alone for now. It's great to go under the radar like that and let people think that you're helping them when really you're getting the biggest benefit, because that extra mana is what you need. Again, Zavala is here not as a draw, not as a late game, but as ramp. So just keep that in mind. If she does go away, I mean, hey, you drew out a hate spell or you drew out removal, and now you can kind of repurpose or reset yourself and your mentality and keep going from there. So it is what it is. The last creature that we're going to talk about as far as ramp is Priest of Titania. She is 1 in a green, she's an elf druid, a 1/1. And the reason why I wanted to bring her up is she highlights another sub-theme to this deck. She taps for green mana equal to the number of elves on the battlefield. Keep in mind, elves on the battlefield, not on your battlefield, the battlefield. So if you're playing an elf player or just somebody who happens to have 1 or 2 elves, you're getting mana for however many elves are on all of your battlefields, your opponents included. So there's an elf sub-theme. I don't know exactly how many elves there are, but right here you can see there's 3, and there's a couple more in the draw phase, I believe. So you're going to get a decent amount out of this. One card I did forget to bring up, and I probably should have because it did a lot of work during the EDH Season 1 Episode 3 game. Karametra's Acolyte, I believe, is 3 in a green, 2/2 something druid. I don't think it's an elf, but she taps for your devotion to green. As you can see just by the permanents that we've talked about so far, Chorus of the Conclave, Oracle of Mundaya, Zavala, and Priest of Titania, that's already devotion of 5. Plus Karametra's Acolyte is another green, so that's 6. The deck I want to say is about 75% green mana symbols, so Karametra's Acolyte is going to be tapping for a lot. Also keep in mind that in the lands there's a Nykthos, so you can tap for your devotion of green or white, depending on if you do need white mana, because some of the really good cards in the deck do require white mana. So the first non-creature ramp spell that I want to talk to you guys about is Zendikar Resurgent. This is an enchantment and it's very expensive. It costs 5 and 2 green for a total of 7, but what it does is when you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana to your mana pool of any type that land produces. Don't get this confused with doubling your mana. Yes, for a basic land, you are essentially doubling your mana, but it does come into play when you have like a Silesia Sanctuary, which taps for 2. You're just getting 3, and you're picking whether that new mana is green or white. You're not getting an additional green or white. That's not how it works. Don't get confused. Don't automatically double your mana, especially if you're not playing online and you're doing it in paper. People tend to make wrong calls. Don't be that guy. Don't make the wrong call, or that girl. Don't make the wrong call. The other important part of this that makes it really good, like Zavala, is that you get to draw a card every time you cast a creature spell. This is a creature deck. There's very aggro creatures in here, so there's going to be a lot of creatures. You're going to be drawing a lot of cards as long as nobody gets rid of this. Again, if they hate it out and they get rid of this enchantment, I promise you this is not the most broken enchantment in this deck. You want them to target this over some of the other things. For instance, Mirari's Wake. If you guys watch the episode, you'll know Mirari's Wake did so much work for me. It's very similar to Zendikar Resurgent. It's an enchantment. It costs 3, a green and a white, so a little bit cheaper. Gives your creatures +1/+1, and whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana to your mana pool of any type that land produced. So again, don't get it confused. You're not doubling. You're just adding extra. So those are the only 5 cards I wanted to bring up for ramp. Again, Karametra's Acolyte is a 6/1 that did a lot of work, and there's some other things like Burnished Hearts in there, Armillary Sphere to pull out lands from your deck. Those are good cards, but again, they're kind of like EDH staples more so than something that we specifically need to talk about for this deck. However, what I do want to talk about is your drawing ability. You need to draw a decent amount of cards in this deck because green and white don't draw the most cards. So you want to be able to get through lands and get to the good stuff, whether it's your powerful enchantments that are really going to accelerate your game, those accelerators that we're going to talk about later, or you want to get to your creatures while your commander's out so you can pump them up and then just swing in for a bunch of damage. So let's talk about draw cards. The first card that we're going to talk about is the one that I use, I think, 3 times in the EDH League game. Shamanic Revelation, sorry if I butchered that, is a green sorcery for 3 and 2 green, draw a card for each creature you control. You gain 4 life for each creature you control power 4 or greater, aka Ferocious from the Kanzatar Kier block. We already know from the way the commander works that we're going to be getting a lot of big creatures. So this is a great spell to draw you cards because you're going to have creatures. It's a creature deck and you're going to have big creatures. So that means that you should be able to gain a bunch of life and draw a bunch of cards off this anytime you cast it. We have a couple of creature-based draw cards. Let's talk about those next. Armorcraft Judge is an elf artificer, green, 3/3, costs 3 and green. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Again, we just talked about creature deck, +1/+1 counters are the theme. What could possibly go wrong, right? Plus, the fun part about this interaction is if your commander's out on the field, you can actually pay additional mana to put Armorcraft Judge, or to put 1/1 counters on Armorcraft Judge, and draw for Armorcraft Judge as well as anything else. So that's really cool too, just to get that extra little bit of value. The next card that we're going to talk about is Primordial Sage, the bottom right one. It's a spirit, first non-elf, because again, don't forget, Armorcraft Judge is an elf, like we were talking about the Priest of Titania, there's a bit of an elf sub-theme here. This is the first non-elf, as it's a spirit, green, it's a 4/5, and it costs 4 and 2 green. Whenever you play a creature spell, you may draw a card. Again, just like Zendikar Resurgent, creature deck, you're going to play creatures, you're going to draw a card, so basically getting to replace and cycle through your deck, get those cards out of your deck in your hand and then onto the battlefield as quick as you can. The last card we're going to talk about in terms of draws is called Inspiring Call. This is actually once again dual purpose, and you'll notice a lot that most of these cards here are very dual purposey. They have more than one purpose in the deck. This one is actually really good because it helps you stave off the potential board wipe. Because you're playing a creature deck, you're going to be susceptible to board wipes, and that's really going to set you back, and you don't want that to happen. So this is a green instant. It costs 2 and a green, and you draw a card for each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it, very similar to Armorcraft Judge. However, there's another part. Those creatures get indestructible until end of turn. So aside from like a Merciless Eviction or Black Sun Zenith or something that makes people sacrifice, I think Killing Wave, you have to either pay life or sacrifice a creature, not sure. Cataclysmic Gearhulk, there you go. The caster gets to pick a creature and you have to sacrifice all the other ones. So you can't save them from that, but you can at least keep things on the board when somebody tries like a Nevermval's Disc or Day of Judgment, Wrath God, etc, etc. So again, there's other draw spells in the deck. I think there was a total of 6. We'll see it at the end when we go to the list. But these are the 4 I like the most, especially Shamanic Revelations. Again, life gain, card draw, and it's actually relatively cheap. For green, 5 mana is not that much. So the next thing that I want to talk to you guys about are the keyword enablers. What is a keyword enabler? Keywords are, of course, First Strike, Trample, Death Touch, Flying, Haste, all those good things. What we had from Abzan, the Abzan clan from the Khans of Tarkir set, is a couple of creatures that gave creatures with +1/+1 counters certain keywords. So we found all the green white ones, and we put them in the deck. Abzan Battle Priest is a 3/2 human cleric, white, cast 3 and a white, cost 3 and a white, not cast 3 and a white. This one gives lifelink for all your +1/+1 creatures. Fun fact, all these creatures can also give themselves 1/1 counters by outlasting, by paying a cost and tapping them. So not only can they help your field, but they can also get their own benefits. Or, if you have Course of the Conclave out, you could just pay the extra mana. Instead of tapping and paying 1 next turn, you can pay an additional 1, and he comes in with a 1/1 counter on it. So he's got lifelink as a 4/3 at that point. Abzan Falconer is another white one. It's a 2/3 human soldier. 2 and a white is its cost, and this one gives flying. Again, it has an outlast cost, it's just 1 white again. Enoch Bonkin, I think it's Enoch, is a hound soldier. This is a 2/1, once again a white creature, 1 and a white mana, and it gives all your +1/+1 countered creatures first strike. Longshot Squad is a hound archer, 3/3, this one's green, costs 3 and a green. This one gives all your +1/+1 creatures reach. Very important because while the deck does, of course, give itself flying, or now it can give itself reach. It can have some ways to deal with those creatures that can typically fly over your defenses. Here's a couple answers on how to make them stop. I think there's also a Silklash Spider in the deck so that you can pay mana, because again, you're going to ramp up a lot and have a lot of mana to try to wipe out the enemy's flyers. Tuskguard Captain is the other green one, 2 and a green for a human warrior, 2/3. This one gives trample. Trample is very important in the deck because you need a way to get through chump blockers. That is the biggest thing to deter a creature deck, is to not want to attack it into a group of 1/1s and do no damage because of these little, like, you know, sapperlings or 1/1 soldiers or 1/1 goblins. It's the most frustrating thing in the world. So you give them trample, they stomp on those little bugs, and they keep on going. Another important thing to note is that there was I don't know if there was 2 keyword enablers in black or just 1, but the 1 is the one that you probably really wanted. It was the Death Touch one. I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but we had to find a way to give our creatures Death Touch. So again, Death Touch and Trample are a really dangerous combo. Basically, Trample says you have to assign lethal damage to the creature and then the rest can go over, whereas Death Touch says any amount of damage is lethal. So Trample Death Touch says I can assign 1 point of damage, that would be lethal, the rest is going over. So I don't care if you block my 5/5 with a 5/5, I have to assign 1 point of damage and the other 4 damage is going right on through. So for that, we put Bow of Nylea, which is a legendary enchantment artifact from the Theros block. It's mono green, it costs 1 and 2 green. Attacking creatures you control have Death Touch. It also has some versatility because of its different mods, the different modes on its lower ability. For 1 in the green and tap it, you can put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Goes great with the theme, right? You can deal 2 damage to target creature with flying. Again, we were just talking about having maybe some trouble with flying creatures. This helps you with that. You can gain 3 life, or you can put up to 4 cards from your graveyard to the bottom of your library in any order. This is great for recursion. That way, if you ever find yourself getting stuck, you can just cycle some cards back into your graveyard, and they might be key pieces. Maybe Shamanic Revelations, maybe one of these keyword enablers, maybe Mirari's Wake if somebody gets rid of it, unless of course they exile it, but at that point, what can you do? So these are your keyword enablers. They're very powerful because they give you those extra little boosts for just doing what your deck is already doing. Your deck's already making big creatures. This is just like, hey, now let's give your bigger creatures these new abilities. And it gets really silly really fast. So the next part that we want to talk about are the accelerators. And again, I want to explain what accelerators mean. You want cards that are going to help you do what you're doing and start doing it even faster. So for that, you need accelerators. So, I talk about 4 right here. Enduring Scale Lord is a green-white dragon. It's a 4/4 flying. Already, that's impressive by itself because we don't have a lot of flying bodies, and this, in case you can't get Reacher and you can't get the flying keyword enabler or Silk Lash Spider or this, it's just more redundant ways of having some defense against flyers. It costs 4, a green and a white, and its ability is a really cool part. Whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are placed on another creature you control, you may put a 1/1 counter on Enduring Scale Lord, which means, again, you're over here doing these things with your cards, whether it's having them come in with counters, outlasting them, putting counters on them from some other spells like what we have down here, and Enduring Scale Lord is getting bigger. So it starts off as this little 4/4, and then while you're over here playing with your deck, you don't even have to pay into Enduring Scale Lord. You're just going to be over here playing with your other creatures, and then all of a sudden Enduring Scale Lord is going to be like a 30/30. If you watch the episode from the EDH League, I think I got it up to be like a 32/32. Unfortunately, John put a enchantment on it that disallowed me from attacking him, but at the end I Wave of Vitrolied and got rid of it. So it did wind up being able to connect. I just, at that point, it wasn't necessary. We're actually going to skip the one on the upper right for right now because I want to talk about some of the other ones. Doubling Season is, again, probably a +1/+1 commander staple if you're running green. It's a green enchantment, it costs 4 and a green, and it basically says if an effect would put 1 or more tokens into play under your control, put twice as many. This is a time where it's important to remember twice as many, not 1 additional. Matters a lot here. If an effect would place 1 or more counters on a permanent you control, it places twice that many on that permanent instead. So the only thing that you have to worry about is if somebody is running, like, let's say a Hapatra with a -1/-1 counter team. That can be kind of deadly. Or if somebody's running poison counters. Again, that can kind of be a deterrent for you casting Doubling Season. If that's not an issue, you probably want this on your battlefield, and you probably want to doing crazy things like giving 2 +1/+1 counters here Enduring Scale Lord, plus however many counters is going to anything else. You could pay 5 on a Gaia's Herald, 5 additional on a Gaia's Herald, and it comes in with 10 +1/+1 counters. That is a huge boost. It's essentially like paying 1 to put 2 1/1 counters on a creature. With your commander out, of course. The next one is Primeval Bounty. Again, an amazing mono green card. I can't think of a time where mono green doesn't want to run this. It's an enchantment, it costs 5 and a green, and it has 3 different effects depending on what you're doing. Anytime you cast a creature spell, put a 3/3 beast creature token onto the battlefield. Keep in mind, we just talked about Doubling Season doubles your creature tokens, So if you have these both out, it can get kind of silly kind of fast. You're over here playing creatures, which depending on the enchantments you have out, might be drawing you cards, or if you have Primordial Sage out, might be drawing you cards to play more creatures, and then you're getting creatures for your creatures and drawing your cards. Very synergistic. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put 3 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. We talked about before, there are ways to put +1/+1 counters on your commander. Keep in mind, if there's other green players in your pod, your commander does have Forest Walk. And commander damage is a very real thing when that creature can potentially be getting 6 1/1 counters, or 4 1/1 counters if you have Hardened Scales on it, which is also in the deck. I didn't put it up for here, but it is also in the deck. So you have all these ways to basically say, here's how many counters I'm putting on it, and then here's how many counters I'm really putting on it, and kind of make it escalate from there, or accelerate from there, and that's why I call them accelerators. And the last thing is whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you can gain 3 life. Again, there's a decent amount of life gain in the deck. It's to help you keep afloat if people start targeting you, which they might. If they start board wiping you, you might need some extra life in order to help you reset. It is what it is. So for now, guys, that's all the cards I want to talk about. Those are your main parts: ramp, draw, keyword enablers, and of course accelerators. There's a lot of other stuff in the deck. There's Nylea, which is another way to give you trample and gives you an indestructible body. Again, like there's Karametra's Acolyte. There's Gaia's Herald in case you're playing against a blue deck. Gaia's Herald basically is a 2-mana creature, green. It's a 1/1 and it says it can't be countered and creature spells can't be countered. So can it be bounced? Sure. However, at least it won't be countered, and maybe depending on when you play it, you can get a bunch of creatures out and make it harder, I guess, for anybody to be countering anything that you do, or maybe it'll help you slow them from slowing you. Some cards that I also didn't put in the deck were things like Grand Abolisher. That's another good one. Opponents can't cast spells during your turn, which is again a way to basically say stop countering, this is my turn, don't take your turn on my turn. But guys, that's going to be it for the deck tech. Again, here's the entire list. So just to give you guys an idea of what else in there, like I said, there's 16 ramp spells. Boundless Realms is in there, so if you have half your lands, you can go and get the other half. Frontier Siege to get essentially 4 green mana every turn. 2 in one main phase 1, 2 in main phase 2. Darksteel Ingots, an indestructible mana rock. Commander Sphere can draw you a card, or can give you green or white mana. Burnished Heart searches out 2 lands. Sol Ring, just so you guys know, I made this before the ban. Sol Ring is no longer a legal card in Magic Online. So just if you go to play it on Magic Online, just make sure you know that. You do have to take Sol Ring out in terms and get anything else. Sylvan Scrying is again a mono green staple. Has to be in there. Has to be in there because it searches for a land card. Not a basic land card. I think I went and found my Nixos off this in the episode, and it just got crazy from there. Why wouldn't you get a Nixos? I mean, I have like 16 green mana symbols on the field. I want 16 green mana so I can play crazy stuff, or just play one big creature. Guys, if you're interested in this deck, I of course want to encourage you to get it. I had a lot of fun. It was a budget deck. This is how much it costs. In paper from TCG, it'll go upward to about $201.67. From Isle of Cards, $163.37. From Card Kingdom, $209.62. Again, or just to note, if you guys get something from Card Kingdom, I believe they have sponsor links for the Mana Source, Game Nights, and Tolarian Community College. So go find those podcasts and make sure you know their links. I believe the Mana Source is just cardkingdom.com/the Mana Source. Game Nights, I believe, is cardkingdom.com/game nights. And I want to say Tolarian College is the / for Tolarian, for the professor. Of course, guys, if you do want to play this online, like me, John, and Danielle do, it's only 18.1 ticks, which is about $19. It's really not very expensive. Again, a really fun deck. I really enjoyed it. I think you guys would too. You can of course optimize it. I had to keep it under 20 ticks for the budget. I'm still waiting to go back and kind of optimize it a little bit. Like I said, Grand Abolisher I didn't have at the time. It was a little bit too expensive. I got to take the Sol Ring out, and there's some other things in there that can be pretty good. Just so you guys know, I didn't actually touch on this at all, but the defense column you see on the right there, there's some more life gain in there with like Essence Warden. There's Nissa Ravane, which gives you her second +1 is to gain 1 life for every elf on the battlefield, and as you guys can see if you look around, there's a lot of different elves on there. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Deck Tech Tuesday. If you guys like it, leave me a like and a comment letting me know if there's a deck you want me to build. I'll brew anything for you guys and let you know what I think of it, and you know what I think the best strategies are. I try to do a little bit of research so I almost know what I'm talking about. Not every time, sometimes I do. But yeah, let me know what you think. Of course, guys, I hope you subscribe to the channel and look for more content from me. You can follow me on Twitter at DM_cross. I'll put a link to my profile in the description below. You can also follow John and Danny from the EDH League episodes. I'll put their profiles down below. I might even put down below Tolarian, Community College, the Mana Source, and Game Nights, because those are some other great content creators, and you know they might have comments as far as like a deck like this would go. I don't know if anybody's ever done a course of the Conclave deck, but there you have it. Guys, until next time, that's all I got for y'all. Peace. Love y'all.